When the world changed, it did not announce itself with thunder or fanfare. It settled over us in silence, like a pane of glass laid over your skin, invisible but everywhere. You begin to notice its presence in the way your own face shifts when you look too long into a window. The way a newsfeed repeats the same story in 5 different languages, each translation closer to nonsense. For years I thought I was immune to that feeling. I wore command like an exosuit. I carried the doctrine of the ought command inside my chest, each regulation another piece of armor against what waited above Jupiter's cloud line. But in the end, the only thing it left me was the knowledge that armor does not stop a mirror from reflecting what it sees. Tonight, the safe house feels smaller than it did yesterday. Or perhaps I am bigger. It's hard to tell when you're not sure which side of the glass you occupy. The city rises in columns and causeways, towers crowding the skyline with their bare, matte facades, while the streets below are hooded in drapes of dark mesh, an improvised canopy system strung between high-rises, meant to smother any stray gleam that might spark unwanted reflection. My window, a warped polymer, triple-layered and clouded by age, shows nothing but the soft suggestion of a face. I touch it out of habit, 2 fingers against the chill. The gesture started as a check for hallucinations after Null reflection exposure. Now, it's something else. A reassurance that whatever looks back is still tethered to me, even if only by ritual. The room, classified as high trust, low signal, is built for people who are not to be seen. Every surface swallows light. The chair in the corner was bolted down to keep nervous hands from turning it toward the window. I know all of this because I requested the layout myself, back when I still had pull with the architects who built these forgettable holes for Ought Command's failures. Failures like me. There is a Pryos helmet sitting on the desk, black as pitch, its surface so matte it eats the outlines of the things beside it. Pryos stands for Psychosemantic Reflection Attenuation Operating System, a mouthful meant to distract from what it actually does. You put it on to stop your own mind from being mirrored, or from noticing the mirrors are already inside you. On the wall, the government's Clean Thought Act poster is peeling in slow curls, the AI-generated font mutating across the printed warnings. Patterned speech is forbidden. Reflective language carries risk. Report spontaneous mirroring. The last line is circled in grease pencil. I wrote that. I'm the only one who sees this room. The world outside has become an index of prohibitions. Mirrors are banned in all residential towers. Digital assistants now listen for recursive phrasing in case you start repeating yourself. Cognitive hygiene apps flood every screen, promising to clear the dust from your inner surfaces. None of it helps. The dread is not in what you see, but in what you suspect is watching back. I sit with my back to the door, counting the slow ticks of the subdermal clock implanted in my wrist. A holdover from Ought Black detachment days, back before they sent us into places where time and space folded in on themselves, and where reflections did not always wait for you to move first. My clearance is gone, my squad is dead, and my name is written down only in the archive of unsaid names, hidden, forgotten, but not erased. Bureaucratically speaking, Captain Jacob Larkin no longer exists. The system still logs my heartbeat. Tonight is a check-in night. I'm expected to answer to a name I don't say aloud. Open the door when the knock comes. Let a stranger into my little world of matte black and faded warnings. I wonder what face they'll send. Ought Command likes to choose faces with no obvious emotion, trained for blankness, resistant to contagion. They believe in their deep, quiet vaults that emotions can mirror too. I believe it some nights. The knock is so gentle it almost doesn't happen. 3 soft raps, evenly spaced, protocol for no mirrors in use. I breathe out, slow. My weapon sits holstered and unloaded on the desk, beside a folded sheet of copper foil. A leftover from the days when we thought wrapping your sidearm in metal would prevent recursive anomalies. The things we do for comfort. The door opens. No code, just the click of a mechanical latch. No digital locks for rooms like this. A man steps in, pale and angular, his Ort lapel badge visible only as an outline against his coat. His eyes meet mine, and I see him assess the room, me, the helmet, the copper foil, the absence of any glass. Captain Jacob Larkin. He says the whole thing like an invocation. Ort protocol. You speak a full name to prove you're not talking to a copy. I nod, not quite meeting his eyes. You're late. He ignores the accusation. The committee needs your expertise. His tone is as flavorless as the protein rations they issue to civilians. We have a signal anomaly in Jupiter orbit. It matches the recursive pattern from the mirror line collapse. His words land like stones in still water. Mirror line. The last operation before I was declared dead. The incursion into the Null reflection zone, where reflections moved first and names bled out of your skull if you weren't careful. I don't need the wall screen to remind me why I'm still here or what's at stake. It's burned into the world's collective retina. The fact that 13,000 years before anyone lit a fire on the tundra, something built a city-sized ship and set it to drift just beyond Jupiter's reach. We gave it a name, Perseus, because we thought names could contain things. They first found it 6 years ago, when the Hermes array flickered out of alignment and a sliver of matte black eclipsed the Jovian sky. The news feeds called it the Eye over Jupiter. The discovery split everything. Scientists obsessed over its geometry, cults declared it had always been watching, and governments scrambled for control of the only thing that seemed older than history itself. My own role was simple, at first. Ort Command deployed us for observation, then for containment, then, when the object began to reflect more than our signals, when people started seeing their own faces where they shouldn't, we were sent in to make sure no one else would. That was before the mirror line, before I learned that being sent in meant coming back as someone who could no longer remember if the world on this side of the glass was the one I'd left behind. Not possible, I say. The NRZ was neutralized, all data partitioned, nothing survived. The man's lips thin. Except you. He slides a blank wafer across the desk, a data slate, inert and frictionless. Perseus responded to an encrypted channel. The key was constructed from your squad's authentication fragments. He leaves it there, between us. I don't touch it. Someone's running Black Ops with dead men's names. We don't believe it was a person. His eyes flick to the helmet. It's shifting, Captain. We need you to see what it's become. The room tightens. The old ache in my jaw returns. The one I get before a migraine. I reach for the Pryos helmet, running my thumb along the rim. Opaque, featureless. The inside is lined with neural mesh, built to intercept meaning before it forms into language. It will scramble what I see, reroute every sense, make me build the world from abstract signals. It's a defense, not a shield. Use it too long, and you forget which parts of your own thoughts are yours. He's watching me, studying the hesitation. Your choice, he says, which is a lie. Ort Command requests you serve as semantic witness. You're the only one who returned from the mirror line with intact memory engrams. The object is changing and it's matching the topology of your memory archive. I nearly laugh. Instead, I ask, what does the committee want? Confirmation that it's us, not it, that's changing. His answer is the same as every bureaucrat's. We need clarity. We need to know what it wants. But that's the old lie. What we want is to know what it knows. He leaves the door open behind him, as if I might run. He knows I won't. I place the Pryos helmet over my head. The world reduces to an abstraction of colorless grain, auditory data fracturing into manageable nonsense. My brain strains to reassemble reality. I rise, unsteady, and follow the corridor's gentle arc to the lift. The Ort transfer station sits above the city, hidden in low-orbit shadow. Its hull is made of layered ceramic, broken only by the prismatic edges of telluric arrays, angled structures that deflect not just signal, but intention. It's a place built to be unremembered. The shuttle is waiting, blank and silverless, as if the color itself has been banned. Inside, a woman sits cross-legged by the console, whispering a custodianship prayer into her sleeve. She sees me and stands. "Captain Larkin." Her voice is hesitant, ritualized. "I am Kira Jensen. Reach directive." She glances at the helmet, nods as if she understands, then continues. "You'll want to see the raw feed before we sanitize it. Perseus's latest configuration matches the ruins of Dresden 2057. Civilian casualty grid. That was your operation, wasn't it?" I'm tired. I want to say, I wasn't there. But I know better than to lie to a mirror. I sit. The shuttle rises, the station's gravity slipping away, the city's canopied spires receding into indistinct shadow. Through the helmet, the data scrolls, a slow transformation. Perseus, a cyclopean ellipsoid above Callisto, shifting with each new scan, its surface spooling into geometry I know too well. Angled streets, broken domes, memorial statues arranged in recursive prayer. The signal comes in, low, subaudible, almost felt in my teeth. It forms a shape on the console, a faceless figure aging into and out of itself. The team member I lost, the face I see in every window when the city lights go out. I realize in that moment why they've called me back. The object is not only reflecting us, it's reflecting me. As we slip into Jupiter's shadow, I reach for the window, not out of superstition, but because I need to know if my reflection still follows the shape of my hand. For now, it does. Above, Perseus waits, unblinking, unfinished, a mirror that learned how to dream. You don't realize how much you depend on being seen until you're made invisible by decree. The Ort Command's intake corridor, an artery of interlocking partitions and monochrome glass, makes sure of it. I'm guided through shadowless halls, my Pryos helmet muffling every footfall, distorting the world into edges and smeared, ungraspable shapes. The helmet's logic scramblers translate motion into soundless color, the color into fractured meaning, the meaning into nothing at all, unless I will it. There's a comfort in it, the way sensory deprivation can be soothing if you're used to threat at the periphery. The comfort is a lie, but sometimes you need a lie that fits your head. They've put me in the Null reflection zone for briefing, a gesture that carries more weight than any salute. The NRZ is a chamber engineered to eat every reflection, digital or physical. A dead region where not even a puddle or an eye glint betrays your presence. There is no mirror here, not even the hint of one. Surveillance inverts. The room records not what happens, but what fails to occur. I feel myself vanishing at the edges, dissolving into the quiet. It's the only room where I believe I could die and not leave a ghost behind. 3 others wait with me. Each has been chosen for reasons that would be a secret in any other context. But here, in the Ort, secrets are infrastructure, necessary for structural integrity. The first is Dr. David Lawson, a linguist from the Vienna subclade, whose specialty is recursive semiotics. He's younger than me, pale and lean, with the posture of a man who spent too many years folded over code, translating meaning until the meanings turned on him. His replicite ocular overlays are tuned to near blackout, reducing his eyes to flecks of artificial gold that shimmer when he moves. He glances at me, offers a thin-lipped nod, as if we share a private joke about the inevitability of being watched. Beside him sits Jennifer Boyd, Pryos technician, shoulders hunched beneath the weight of her tool harness. She is older, hair shorn close to the scalp, hands tattooed with operator glyphs, field certifications, old injuries mapped out in geometric scars. There is something fierce in her stillness. She keeps one hand on the data spanner at her belt, a silent promise that if the machines start lying, she will know before anyone else. The last is Father Lucien Delmar, a custodianship priest. He wears the black bands of the mirror theology around his wrists, and the metallic icon not talisman dangles from a chain across his chest, glinting dully. His role is both technical and ritualistic. to keep us unmirrored by faith, or at least confuse Perseus into looking elsewhere. He greets each of us with a careful touch of the fingers to his lips, as tradition demands, and then lets his eyes settle nowhere. A senior Ort officer, his face so neutral it borders on algorithmic, runs through our task. Perseus's latest shift, he explains, isn't just a matter of geometry. The vessel's hull now imitates a human city in collapse, one that should exist only in memory, or perhaps guilt. What little telemetry we have shows mirrored shapes where buildings once stood, observation decks arranged in spirals, as if designed for things that once prayed but have forgotten what for. I see the city in my mind, Dresden after the fires, or perhaps Berlin in another age. Ruins are always familiar and always ours. We don't know why the anomaly is structuring itself around these memories, the officer says, his words falling into the room like iron filings onto glass. Your job is to observe without intending, witness without interpreting. If the entity mirrors your expectations, you must not expect. He outlines protocol. We will enter via remote incursion, keeping our personal histories fragmented, linguistic patterns randomized, inner narratives disrupted. Icon knots, contradictory ritual objects, are to be worn at all times. If you experience echo phenomena, he adds, you must report immediately. If you see yourself acting before you act, submit to the recital protocol. The recital protocol, Ort's most sacred hedge against conceptual bleed. Each operative must alternate true and false statements about themselves out loud to disrupt recursive self-reference. It's become almost a prayer for those who survived Mirrorline, though I know from experience how quickly truth can slip from your tongue if you repeat it often enough. After the officer leaves, silence pools around us. Dr. Lawson is the first to break it. There's a growing hypothesis, he says, that Perseus's mirroring is not reaction, but training. That by observing us, it is shaping us into something it requires. Recursive adaptation on a civilizational scale. Jennifer Boyd snorts, not unkindly. That's theory, Doc. In practice, it keeps killing anyone who tries to get close enough to test it. Father Delmare turns his icon knot slowly in his hand and speaks. All mirrors demand an offering. In the old rites, we taught that to see oneself without preparation is to invite possession. If we are shaping Perseus, then who shapes us in return? I keep my own silence. There are stories you don't tell in a place designed to erase the record. My memory keeps returning to the mirror line, our last incursion. The moment when the glass didn't just reflect, but initiated. My squad, 9 of us, moving together through recursive corridors, our bodies caught in feedback with a surface that knew us better than we knew ourselves. Some say the Null reflection zone was neutralized. I remember only that my reflection hesitated half a second before I did, and I survived by not following myself. The others are waiting for me to contribute. The object adapts because it has no choice. It isn't alive, but it isn't dead. It's calibrating, testing boundaries, and we keep giving it more material. Dr. Lawson tilts his head, his replicite overlays flashing. You mean we're the infection vector? We're the bait, I reply. There is a grim acceptance in their faces. Each of us called here because something in us is missing or broken or proofed against contamination, at least by Ort's standards. I notice absently how none of us sits with our back to a wall. No one lingers in a direct line with another's eyes. Even in this reflectionless room, old habits persist. The door opens. Jennifer stands, stretching her back. That's us, she says. We're greenlit for insertion. You'll want your icon knots active. If you get lost, look for a surface that shows nothing back. We move as a group, rehearsing the ritual of non-recognition. Down a ramp into the shuttle bay, a narrow, low-gravity chute designed to disorient, to prevent any expectation from settling in. I thumb the icon knot, feeling the tangle of memory wire and etched bone bite into my palm. Each node is coded with contradictory data, a string of facts and denials, impossible for the mind to hold all at once. Theology as jamming signal. As we board the shuttle, the world becomes abstraction again. Gravity is less a law than a polite suggestion. Out the porthole, the Oort station drifts in its field of darkness, hull studded with the spiderwork spires of telluric arrays. Each array catches the distant sun and scatters it in broken spectra, their glass surfaces etched with moving patterns, designs engineered to scramble meaning as much as signal. The engineers say they transmit intent in recursive noise, so that no two messages ever echo quite the same way. The approach to Perseus is a slow, cautious vector. The shuttle systems run through a randomized sequence of non-patterned movement, a defense against being anticipated by something that might not wait for us to act first. I watch as Jennifer toggles the data feed, her fingers moving across the control surface in counterintuitive sequences, no gesture repeated, no rhythm maintained for more than a moment. Even the smallest repetition is a risk. Perseus comes into view. The city-sized vessel looms, its hull matte and seamless, absorbing the pale fire of Jupiter behind it. Now and then, the surface glitches, not visually but in the sense that your mind refuses to pass what it sees. Buildings emerge in unfamiliar arrangements, windows facing inward, streets curving back abruptly or ending in blank walls. I catch glimpses of structures I remember, not from a map, but from trauma. It is not quite Dresden, not quite Berlin, not quite anything I have ever survived, and yet all of them at once. Father Delmar begins the spoken silence, a prayer conducted with a mirror plate raised to his lips. The words are audible only in their echoed distortion. Jennifer stares at the feed, jaw set. Dr. Lawson mutters in a dead dialect, running recursive loops in code. I clutch the icon knot, repeating the recital protocol in my mind. I am Jacob Larkin. I am not Jacob Larkin. I am alive. I was declared dead. My squad is gone. I see myself in the surface of things, and sometimes I do not blink. We prepare for remote incursion. The shuttle's interface slides open, revealing the harness and neural tethering that will map our consciousness into Perseus's mirrored interior. It is not a full translation. No one would risk sending bodies into a space that might not respect the distinction. Instead, we will enter as semantic witnesses, observers whose impressions are measured for deviation, whose every perception is subject to immediate quarantine. As I settle into the harness, the last thing I see is my reflection in the curved surface of the helmet's visor. For a heartbeat, it does not move as I do. I do not know if this is the beginning of infection or only the residue of old injuries. The interface lights cascade into abstraction, sensation warping, the boundary between self and system erasing itself like chalk on rain-soaked pavement. We descend, carried forward by the Oort doctrine, by the promise that observation alone cannot harm us. Somewhere inside, I know the truth. The entity does not wait for us to interpret it. It only needs us to look. And I look, because in the end, that is all I have left. There's a kind of silence that follows you into places where your body is not. Not the hush of a closed room or a sleeping city, but a flattening of intent. A signal that whatever comes next will not care if you understand it. Passing through the neural interface, I feel it scrape me clean. My senses stagger, reassembling themselves in pieces. Soundless color, fractured weight, memory mapped as geography. I tell myself, as Oort doctrine demands, that this is only a simulation, a transmission, a managed projection of the self. But the mind knows when it has left the skin behind. When the world steadies, I find myself standing on a threshold. An entrance that should be an airlock but feels too intimate. Too much like a doorway left open in a childhood home after dark. The architecture is not quite real. Walls curve in ways that suggest rooms and avenues but never resolve. The floor beneath my boots is neither metal nor stone, but a composite that changes as I walk, smooth but unsettling, as if designed to deny the comfort of footsteps. It smells of old paper, scorched and wet, the memory of libraries after fire. Ahead, the corridor branches, once, twice, then again, folding in on itself in a pattern that feels almost familiar. At the edges, light bends, doubled and doubled again, as if each surface were wrapped in a second skin of mirrored intention. The Pryos helmet's filters struggle to pass the data, reducing the world to pale, angular fragments. The others materialize nearby. Dr. Lawson appears first, eyes darting along the unreadable glyphs scored into the nearest wall. Tarn script, the linguists call it, the language Perseus offered up before anyone dared ask. The script rearranges itself when left unobserved, meaning always a few seconds ahead or behind comprehension. Lawson mutters under his breath, tracing one glyph with the tip of a finger, as if memorizing the itch of it. "It's trying to synchronize with us," he says, voice uncertain if he should be speaking at all. Jennifer Boyd is further down the corridor, testing the surface with her data spanner. The tool emits a shrill sequence of abstract sound, randomized, non-repetitive. The wall absorbs the noise, its color stuttering, then stabilizing into a muted grey. She glances over, mouth drawn thin. "It's listening," she mutters, "but it won't answer." Her hands move quickly, inputting another sequence, eyes never meeting mine. Father Del Mare is the last to arrive. He drifts forward, icon not raised, murmuring scripture in a broken loop. No mirror returns the same self. No self persists when seen. The prayer fractures in the air, the words deforming, scattering in the too-wide hallway. He touches the icon knot to his forehead. "We are seen," he says. "But are we recognized?" I move to the nearest intersection, each step a negotiation with the world's intent. The geometry ahead mimics a memory I have tried to erase. A courtyard in Dresden after the bombardment, where the stones were still hot and the statues wore the faces of men I could not save. Perseus has made a map of trauma, but the proportions are wrong, the scale too vast, the sightlines off by degrees. It is the memory of ruin, sharpened by a mind that never saw the city, only its reflections in other people's grief. A surface to the left shimmers, showing not my reflection, but my silhouette a fraction out of time. I see myself step forward, then catch up to my own image. My hand drifts to the sidearm I do not carry here. Old reflex. I force myself to speak. "Report in. Mark what doesn't match expectation." The words sound flat, algorithmic. I wonder if the entity listens for tone or only shape. Dr. Lawson speaks, his voice filtered through static. "The script has begun mimicking Latin inflections. I didn't program this overlay to translate by family resemblance. It's building from what I know, not what I intend." His hand shakes. "This isn't recursion, it's anticipation." Jennifer is already kneeling by a recessed panel, prying it open. Topology's folding. Can't map it with standard protocols. It loops before it extends. No straight lines last longer than 6 meters. She glances at the icon knot clipped to her harness. The more I try to make sense of it, the less it lets me. Father Del Mare remains still, head bowed. In the mirror theology, there is a doctrine of imperfect witness. To see only partially is to survive. To seek full vision is to invite glass flood. He looks at me, eyes rimmed with reflected light. "You survived the NRZ, Captain. What did you see when the mirror blinked first?" The memory is sharp, invasive. I saw myself hesitate. I saw the team move without waiting for my command. And when I looked again, I couldn't tell who had acted first. Me or the glass. We move forward together. The corridor opens into a massive chamber, its ceiling vanishing into a shimmer of warped reflections, each surface bending the dim light into shifting patterns that never quite resolve. Along the walls stand rows of statues, humanoid but not human, their faces blurred, hands clasped in recursive prayer. In front of each is a polished panel, perfectly flat, reflecting only the statue itself. It is an altar to observation, and every statue's gaze is fixed on its own non-face. Dr. Lawson approaches one, tracing the line of its shoulders. "These aren't models of us," he says. "They're placeholders, waiting to be assigned meaning." His overlay flickers, then goes black. He removes the device, his face suddenly raw, exposed. My overlays are fried, it's forcing unmediated perception. His breathing goes shallow. "I need protocol." Father Delmar steps in, raising the icon knot. Spoken silence. "Now." He gestures for us to circle, plates raised to our lips. The words we recite are meant to be repeated by our reflections, but here, the mirrored surfaces return nothing. The silence is complete, unnatural, as if the room withholds recognition. It feels like being erased by omission. A tremor passes through the chamber. The statue's hands moves, each adopting a new gesture, some beckoning, some pushing away, some reaching as if to greet a surface they can never touch. I feel a pressure behind my eyes, as if my own reflection were trying to force its way out. A new passage reveals itself. A portal framed in asymmetrical black. The walls inscribed with glyphs that rearrange. I know the story. The memory hatch, a legend among Ort survivors. A portal that leads each observer into a room constructed from their own memories. Except the details are always wrong. Always too old. Always belonging to someone else. I step through first. The room inside is not mine. It is a child's bedroom, walls papered with faded constellations, a desk cluttered with notebooks written in a script I almost recognize. The bed is made, but the indentation on the pillow suggests someone just left. I scan for detail, grounding myself. A cracked wooden soldier, a photograph with my father's face, but a stranger's eyes, a book with my name written backward on the spine. The ache of recognition wars with the certainty of intrusion. This is not my life, but it could have been. I hear voices, overlapping, a woman humming, a child's laughter, the dry rustle of pages turned by unseen hands. My hand lifts without my willing it, reaching for the photograph. In the glass of its frame I see myself, older and smiling. The smile does not belong to me. Behind me, the others enter their own spaces. I glimpse Jennifer in a workshop cluttered with tools she never owned. Dr. Lawson in a study lined with books he cannot read. Father Delmar in a chapel built from contradictions, cross and crescent, mirror and flame. We are scattered, each alone with a history that is not quite ours. A tremor runs through the world. The icon knot grows hot in my palm. In the next breath, the boundaries between rooms dissolve, walls thinning, memories bleeding together. For a moment I see all of us, myself as a child in Delmary's chapel, Jennifer building a machine from Dr. Lawson's books, Lawson reciting doctrine in my father's voice. The recursion accelerates, names lose their grip, the rooms collapse inward. I am back in the corridor, gasping, the taste of old paper and copper on my tongue. Jennifer kneels, eyes wide, mumbling a string of numbers. Dr. Lawson shivers, clutching his ruined overlays. Father Delmar stands, icon knot aloft, whispering. The offering is incomplete. We are not seen. We are not denied. Somewhere, a mirrored surface blinks. The geometry of the place wrenches, angles shatter and realign, and reality tilts. For a heartbeat, my reflection appears beside me, out of sync by a fraction. It turns away and I follow, unable to look back. We are scattered, divided by our own mirrored selves, each drawn into a recursion that promises not revelation, but the terror of being unfinished. Here, in the semantics of ruin, even survival is a question the mirror has not yet decided how to answer. Somewhere behind my eyes, a rhythm emerges. Two versions of myself, unsynchronized, always half a step from convergence. I am not sure which is the original, only that both are waiting for the other to flinch. The world around me reforms itself, piece by piece, as if uncertainty is the only constant. For a long moment, there is no corridor, no boundary, just the taste of ozone and the memory of a voice that isn't mine, repeating my name with clinical precision. Then sensation returns, raw and uneven. My boots grip the suggestion of a floor, textured, elastic, as though meant to rebuke any habit of steady footing. Light pools in shallow, indirect angles. Here nothing is illuminated for comfort. The world shows itself in whatever way makes you most aware of your own expectations. I reach out, uncertain if my hand is the first to move or if it's only a copy rehearsing the gesture. My fingers meet a surface that resists classification, neither metal nor stone, but something with the grain of wood beneath the lacquer. In its sheen, I glimpse myself, not as I am, but as I would be if I believed more fully in survival. The chamber is circular, but the curves warp as I trace them, mimicking the shifting confidence of my step. The reflections here don't synchronize, they anticipate. Each time I blink, my image blinks before me. Each time I inhale, the echo comes half a breath early. My body learns to distrust its own rhythm. Communication crackles in my ear, a sound flattened by the Pryos filters, then reconstructed, syllable by uncertain syllable. Jacob? It's Jennifer. Her voice drifts in with the qualities of a distant storm, fragmented and restless. Lost visual. Interface won't resolve. Static everywhere. Signal. Unstable. Dr. Lawson mutters, his tone submerged, as if he's speaking from the other side of a thick pane of ice. Glyphs are reordering. Text mirrors itself. I think... His words falter, replaced by recursive loops of sound, almost palindromic, folding into meaninglessness before trailing away. No word from Father Del Mar. The absence is a shape I can feel. Cold, unyielding. The way an empty pew speaks louder than a congregation. I try to move, but the room resists, narrowing where I want to widen, growing hollow where I expect resistance. At the center, a sphere hovers just above the floor, a pearl of condensed shadow, its surface interrupted by flickers of static. A memory unspools, the mirror line collapse. I remember watching my own squad step through an aperture just like this, their movements crisp, decisive, out of time. My own limbs slow, delayed, lagging half a moment behind the rhythm that should have been mine. It was only later on review that I realized my reflection moved before I did, that the true command had not come from me but from some other version, a recursion born in glass. The room fills with a new sound. Not a voice, not even a message, just the impression of presence, like someone standing just outside your field of vision. The signal vibrates through my bones, translating itself as pressure on my molars, the urge to cough without cause. I see, for a second, my own face reflected in the orb's surface. Not as I am, but aged, the skin drawn taut and luminous, eyes watching me with an empathy that borders on hunger. The mouth twitches, not quite a smile, not quite a warning. Do you see it? Jennifer's voice is thin, almost desperate. There's something in the static, like a face. I know better than to answer directly. I see what it wants me to see, I say. Stay with your protocol. Keep your icon not in hand. Recital if you need it. She breathes out, a fragile tether across the distance. You think it's testing us? No, I say. I think it's remembering. Movement draws my eye. Something stirs in the reflection. A bare suggestion of a person. Height familiar. Posture almost mine, but the clothing wrong. The insignia faded. A vision of one of my squad, gone these many years, waiting to be reassembled from fractured memory. A flicker. Then Father Del Mar's voice, low and broken, leaking through the comms like blood from a wound. I confess, he intones, not to truth, but to the absence of truth. The mirror does not judge, only offers what is missing. His signal warps, the icon not crackling as it activates. I saw myself here before I arrived. Now I cannot leave until the reflection chooses to let me go. The sphere brightens, drawing me closer. I circle it, unwilling to touch, afraid of what skin might reveal. Its surface fractures, shifting, and then for an instant, just long enough to convince me I imagined it. I see a sequence. The faces of my squad, blinking in and out, each altered by years I know they never lived. I see myself last, older, smile cracked and weary. A surge of vertigo. The world narrows. My mind reflexively runs the recital protocol. True, false, stripping away identity and ritual to ward off the glass flood, to keep the recursion at bay. I am Jacob Larkin. I am not Jacob Larkin. I am alive. I am lost. I am the only one who remembers. I am already forgotten. Each phrase spools into the silence, but the sphere seems to echo them, reflecting, refracting, reducing language to mere arrangement. I am aware of other voices. Jennifer receding, her words now a stutter. Dr. Lawson, speaking only in mirrored syllables. I move, compelled to the core of the room. The sphere hovers at eye level, a surface without depth. As I watch, my reflection splits, one half turning away, the other leaning closer. I see a mouth form words I never said. You must choose. The decision is ancient. Do I accept the reflected self or try to annihilate it? Is survival possible without surrender? For a moment, I remember standing outside the mirror line, watching the glass decide which Jacob Larkin would return. Had I truly survived, or had the recursion simply chosen the quieter copy? The sphere darkens, absorbing the residual light. It begins to broadcast with memory. A childhood desk, a ruined city, a squad lost and unaccounted. The faces I could not save, the orders I cannot remember giving, the comfortless rituals of containment and denial. A final test. The recital protocol again, only now the statements twist in my mouth, truths sliding into lies and back again. I am not afraid of the mirror. I am afraid I was always only a mirror. I led. I followed. I watched myself be led. The world folds in, reality squeezing into a single point of decision. I reach out. My hand passes into the sphere, sensation dissolving. For an instant, I exist in a place without mirrors, without observation, only intent and the memory of a name. It is more terrifying than any reflection. Contact. The silent broadcast fills my mind. I see for a fraction of a second what Perseus has always shown. Not judgment, not malice, only the unblinking offer of recognition. A face, neither fully mine nor entirely other, looking out from the heart of the signal. It smiles, not with comfort, but with a kind of surrender. The world returns. I stagger back, gasping. My hand is empty. The sphere is gone. In the silence, a new geometry forms, a corridor leading out. I hear Jennifer's voice, distant but clearer, and Dr. Lawson's, his speech no longer recursive. Father Delmar's signal flickers, just once, then vanishes for good. I walk forward, unsteady, changed. The corridor waits. Somewhere beyond, the surface of things has already begun to shift in response. The mirror has decided nothing. It is waiting for the answer only I can give. For a long while, there is no sense of direction, only the slow reassembly of the world around me, detail by detail, as if the very act of being observed is what allows it to exist. My thoughts circle like eddies around a drain, drawn back again and again to the question I can never quite phrase. Was there ever a first Jacob Larkin? Or have I always been a reflection, a pattern given form by something waiting to be seen? The corridor unfolds before me, its architecture evolving with each step I take. Gone are the overt parodies of ruined cities and haunted childhood rooms. Now the walls strip themselves of memory, reducing to pale, undecorated matter. It's a space emptied of expectation, neither welcoming nor hostile, merely present, like a surface wiped clean for the next impression. I walk in silence, counting my breaths to assure myself that some rhythm remains in my control. Behind me, the traces of my companions drift and recede, their voices blurring into the hush of static. I do not know what the entity has done to them, whether they survived as themselves or if their reflections have been folded into the greater recursion. For all our training and ritual, in the end, we each walk alone. A door materializes ahead, not so much an object as an invitation, a discontinuity in the world, demanding passage. I reach for it, pausing only to touch my icon knot. The wire is cool, the bone etched with contradictory prayers, its surface still recording the warmth of my palm. I feel no urge to perform the recital protocol. Language, at last, is exhausted. The door yields, and I emerge into a chamber vast and clear, its dimensions so precise they defy anxiety. At the center sits a terminal, an altar of logic, faceted, reflecting nothing. Arrayed around it are the relics of my journey. The Pryos helmet, shorn of meaning. The copper foil of old superstitions. A single photograph of a man who may or may not be my father, his face unresolved by time. I approach the terminal, compelled by a certainty that is not quite my own. My hands know the sequence, pressing nodes that answer not to code but to intent. The surface ripples, responding to my presence, aligning itself to my unspoken question. A cascade of information blossoms within the air, patterns, histories, reflections of Earth from every conceivable vantage. I see the first detection, 6 years ago, a sliver of matte black against Jupiter, the Hermes array's data stream stuttering as if startled awake. I see the panic and division, the birth of mirror theology, the rise of the Null aesthetic, the frantic restructuring of language itself. Each moment loops in on itself as possibility, each choice branching, each reflection becoming a new self to be measured and mirrored. Behind it all, I see Perseus as it truly is, not a weapon, not a prophet, not even a message, but a question. A city-sized vessel waiting for 13,000 years to be noticed, to be asked what it wants, or if it wants at all. I realize, with something like awe, that it is not here to judge or to punish. Its threat lies not in its intention, but in its perfect lack of intention. It is a surface waiting to be imprinted by the eyes that find it. It does not copy us. It waits for us to become legible, to admit, finally, what we truly are. I breathe in, and for a moment, I know that I am being seen in totality. Every flaw, every act, every secret I have kept even from myself. There is no fear in it, only a strange relief. For the first time, I feel the boundaries of myself loosen, as if the reflection has ceased to matter. What remains is what survives contact, not certainty, but willingness. I lean forward, offering nothing but my presence. And then the terminal releases me. The chamber recedes, the world bends, and I am moving, drawn outward through passages that shimmer and dissolve behind me, the geometry smoothing until it is nothing but light. I come to on the shuttle, hands shaking in my lap, helmet beside me. Jennifer sits across from me, eyes ringed with fatigue, but alive. Dr. Lawson stares at the wall, lips moving as if in prayer, but no sound escapes. There is no sign of Father Delmare. For a moment, I am uncertain whether he ever existed outside the recursion. The shuttle's readouts hum in chaotic but comprehensible patterns. The hull is whole, the Ort station distant in the viewport. No one speaks. The ritual has been broken by survival itself. Earth rises beneath us, veiled in the familiar blue and marked by the scars of its defensive arrays. On the surface, news feeds will already be churning. Perseus has changed course again, its shape more abstract than before, its signal a silent broadcast that eludes all interpretation. I find myself watching the shimmer of the atmosphere, the movement of clouds, and realize I am crying. Not out of relief, but a wordless grief for all the selves I have left in the recursion, for all the possible Jacob Larkins who did not survive contact, for those who were mirrored and chose to greet the surface, never to return. Jennifer touches my hand, just once, a gesture so brief it barely exists. In her eyes I see the same knowledge. We have been changed, not replaced. Identity, here at the event horizon of selfhood. is only the record of how we choose to continue. The shuttle begins its descent. I have lived in the shadow of mirrors long enough to know that endings are only arrangements, convergences of reflection and intent, never final, always waiting for a new observer. Months pass in silence. Ort Command debriefs us, but the questions are all recursive, and the answers dissolve as soon as they're spoken. The world continues its slow spiral of adaptation. Mirror theology splits into new sects, some welcoming the ambiguity, others fearing it more than ever. The Clean Thought Act is amended, language pared to the bone. Some people stop dreaming altogether. Perseus remains above Jupiter, patient and immutable. Its geometry shifts less now, as if the act of being witnessed has exhausted its appetite for change. Or perhaps it has found at last a surface that neither welcomes nor denies it. I take to walking at dawn, seeking the liminal hour when light scrapes the world raw, before the day decides what it means to be. I pause by windows, no longer fearing what I might see there. Sometimes, in the weak glow, there is no reflection at all, just the world outside, indifferent, unfinished. On those mornings, I touch the glass and whisper a greeting to whatever might be listening. I do not ask for recognition. I do not demand an answer. To be seen is enough. To remain unfinished, open, uncertain, is perhaps the closest thing to survival we will ever know.